Oh man, you Lions fans have done it again. Passion personified.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, everybody? Matt Derry with you. It is a Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today is Tuesday, July 15th into Wednesday, July 16th, last day of quiet in Allen Park because tomorrow, Lions rookies and undrafted free agents arrive in Allen Park to report for, yes, training camp. Training camp starting tomorrow for the rookies, at least reporting. They'll be on the field on Thursday. We welcome you in. Thanks for making us your first listen. Checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. Shout out to our everydayers who are out there. That includes our guy Hutch from BAE Network's Dan Hutchinson. Shout out to him. He loves the show. We appreciate his listenership here on Locked On Lions. The broadcast today brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app if you're looking for tickets, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Follow us on all social media platforms. Please subscribe and check us out on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. Adam Burke, who's the managing editor of VSiN, Vegas Sports Information Network. VSiN does so much talk, especially if you listen on SiriusXM, about numbers and odds and point spreads and over everything, win totals. They just came out with their betting guide for 2025 for the NFL. We're going to talk to managing editor and big Guardians fan, by the way, Adam Burke, on the show coming up momentarily. You want to be a call of the day. We are getting flooded right now, and I love this. Thank you. Call of the day, go to speakpipe.com/Derry podcast page, speakpipe, pipe.com/Derry podcast page, and leave a voicemail. I've got a ton of submissions I got to go through. We're going to play one the rest of the week because we've had some really, really good ones. All right, very quickly, story time. So today, as many of you know, or some of you know, I run marketing and business development for a company called Financial Architects out of Farmington Hills. We've been around for 40 years this year. And we help people live a life of freedom. We really simplify the complexity of your money decisions. If you don't have a financial advisor, reach out to me, and I'd love to introduce you to somebody from our team so we can help you. Today we had an all-staff meeting. We meet every week, and Stacy Grislak, who's one of our client relations coordinators and a great friend and an unbelievable person, says to me, "You're not going to believe this." Stacy says, "My dad, the great Bruce Faber, he hopped on the Lions website this morning to try to get tickets at 10 o'clock this morning or 9 o'clock, whatever it was, for training camp." I'm like, "How'd that go?" And he said that Bruce her dad hops on the Lions website to try to get tickets for training camp. And he was number 11,000. Think about this. 11,368. That was his number in line to try to get tickets for training camp, which of course is going to start up later on in the week. Stacy's sister, Lindsay, she hops on there too because they're trying to get 4 tickets to any of the days they can. She was number 5,800. Stacy logged in on time. Dad was a little bit late, but we're not throwing Dad under the bus. Stacy got down to 4,650. There were 4,649 people in front of her, and then she got kicked out. Basically, the tickets had sold out. You Lions fans are something else. All right. What an amazing group of fans. I get it. There's not a lot of tickets for training camp. I think there's 6 or 7 sessions that are open to the general public starting in a couple of weeks. I know the first training camp practice where the entire team will be out there is on Sunday, but that's closed to the public. But the fact that Bruce was on there, logged on, and was number 11,368 to just get training camp tickets. And I get it. They're free tickets. They don't cost anything. You guys are dying to see the team. But I just want to commend Lions fans. I just think that is absolutely awesome. Like, if you've been down to Allen Park, it's not huge. I know the Lions have talked about expanding the facility down there at 222 Rodwood Drive, or moving eventually somewhere where they can be more fan accommodating. Again, fans are not allowed in during the season. It's just during training camp and 6, 7, 8 sessions. Some of them season ticket holders only. I'm sorry, Lions members only, that they can get in. But the fact that this dude there's 12,000 people sitting there on hold this morning to try to get tickets just for practice. And I know the Lions are going to have joint practices with the Dolphins and I believe Carolina. Is that right? Hold on. I'll make sure I do this right. No, the Texans, the Dolphins and the Texans. So Houston's going to come in for one joint practice, Miami 2. So those will be good days to come watch. And it's almost like watching a game because it's like a scrimmage. But man, 12,000 people sitting on hold this morning just to get training camp tickets tells you all you need to know about Lions fans and your dedication to this franchise. I absolutely love it. I think it is beyond cool, beyond awesome. This fan base deserves this. What's happening right now, the last 3 years, 3 winning seasons, back-to-back NFC North championships. But the poor Grizzlack fam, they were their family. They were trying to get some tickets, but there were thousands of people in front of them in line just to get those tickets online today. So kudos to the Lions. Those must have sold out in span of like 5 minutes. We also have to congratulate Lions quarterback Jared Goff. That's right. Jared and wife Kristen today welcomed in the birth of their daughter, Romy Isabel Goff. Their baby is here and has arrived. So Jared Goff is a new proud dad. The wife Kristen on her Instagram page posted a picture of Romy, Romy, Romy Isabel Goff. Little photo gallery on Instagram if you follow Kristen Goff. But congratulations to Jared and to Kristen on the birth of their daughter, Romy. Very, very cool and great timing as a training camp will begin later on this weekend down in Allen Park. Jared, I'm sure, will be out there. And the big question for tomorrow will be, will Tate Ratledge, as we talked about yesterday, the Lions' unsigned second-round center/guard, will he be at training camp tomorrow? Will he sign his contract as he's supposed to report tomorrow? That's something we will certainly keep our eyes on tomorrow. All right. Where do the Lions stand in the NFC North? What are the numbers telling us? What do the odds makers say? VSiN managing editor Adam Burke, with an E, is going to join us momentarily to break all of that down and more right here on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions. And we're brought to you today by our friends at Gametime. We've all been there looking for concert tickets. You log on early, you wait forever for the tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not about dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Are you tired of endless scrolling trying to find the best deal? Don't. Gametime's zone deals pick the best seats in your section for you. Ever wonder what your view from your seats can actually look like? You can do that. The app shows you a panoramic seat view, so there are no surprises. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets and concert tickets, really, with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, as promised here on Locked On Lions, a first-timer with us on the show today. Thanks to our friend Sammy Steinlight for hooking me up with Adam Burke. Huge Cleveland Guardians fan, by the way, so we're fellow Clevelanders. He's the managing editor of VSiN out in Vegas, and their football guide, their betting guide for the NFL is out. And we'll talk to Adam a little bit about where the Lions stand in his mind. Adam, good to see you.
Good to see you too. You know what? I was going to wear the Guardians hat, or I have a hat with the state of Ohio patch on it, and then I thought I can't really do this on a Detroit show.
I
but
know.
you know, and thinking about it, I mean, you're a fellow Clevelander, and I guess they've accepted you. So maybe they'd accept me too.
I've been accepted. You'll be accepted as well. We had a little, rough patch last year after we knocked off the Tigers in the playoffs. It was kind of sweet, but man, Detroit sports right now is hot, certainly with what's going on with the Tigers, but with the Lions too. First things first, Adam, I saw in the NFL betting guide that VSiN put out, 26 experts all did their predictions. Actually, you picked the Lions to win the division, but you're only one of 11 of 26. 12 actually picked the Packers. What did you think about that?
Yeah, look, I mean, the gaps between really these four teams, I think, at this point in time are just really, really small. So, to me, it's one of those things where it's kind of a war of attrition from a health standpoint. I mean, who's going to stay the healthiest? And, for the Packers, I mean, I don't think Jordan Love has ever had a week where he's had all of his wide receivers in working order. So I don't know why that would happen for this year. Their defense is, they're not bad, but they're not as good as Minnesota's defense. Frankly, I don't think they're as good as Detroit's defense either. So to me, I think that the decision to make is between the Packers and the Lions. The Bears are maybe a year or so away. I think Caleb Williams needs to get better at playing the position. And the Vikings, I mean, whatever, what the hell? I'll make some enemies here. As an Ohio State fan, I'm not impressed with JJ McCarthy. I wasn't in college. I know Ohio State didn't beat them while McCarthy was there, but you know what? We've never seen this guy have to go out and win them a game in the fourth quarter. I mean, there was a game where he didn't even have to throw in the second half. So what is he going to do at the NFL level in close games in the second half, in the fourth quarter? I got to see it to believe it. To me, I think the Lions are still the best team in this division, and then probably the team with the fewest question marks.
What is Vegas and what are you guys at VSiN? How do you view this entirety of the Lions season? Because the schedule is so difficult. I know the number's sitting in the win total is about 10.5 right now. Would you go under? Would you go over? And is it just because of the schedule, or also because obviously no Ben Johnson, no Aaron Glenn, no Frank Ragnow now?
Yeah, so I mean, the Lions, their season win total is 10.5. Little bit of juice toward the under, about -120, about even money coming back on the over, at least if you're looking at some of the more predominant sports books that are out there. Packers are 9.5. Vikings and Bears are both 8.5. So at least right now, the betting markets and Vegas believe that the Lions are still the team to beat in this division. They are the division favorite at +150. Packers, Vikings, Bears coming after that. So I tend to agree with that sentiment. And I realize that, there's been kind of a lot of, I don't want to say negative press, but kind of a pessimistic outlook with Detroit, with Ben Johnson not there, with Aaron Glenn not there, but maybe Dan Campbell is just a really good coach. And honestly, I like OC John Morton, from the John Gruden, Sean Payton coaching tree. I think that's a pretty good move for them. And from a defensive standpoint, Kelvin Shepard was simply promoted. So it's not like anything's really going to change that much schematically on that side of the ball. So I think that the common sentiment is a little bit too low on the Lions, but you can see from a Vegas sentiment where, they don't really pay as much attention to those biases, that the Lions are still the top dog, or I guess the top cat in this division for right now.
What about in the entire NFC in terms of what you guys are how you guys are viewing this Lions team right now in terms of getting to the Super Bowl?
So look, I mean, a lot of people, I will say this in our NFL betting guide, and I know you teased it off the top, and I really encourage people to go and check that out. We put it out on July 1st, and obviously it's still relevant for quite some time here. A lot of people think the 49ers are going to be a bounce back team. Certainly with what the Eagles did in the Super Bowl, there's a lot of support for them as well. Look, though, if you win the NFC North, right, you've clearly earned it. You've played 6 really, really difficult division games. As you mentioned, Detroit's schedule is pretty challenging on the whole. A lot more outdoor games than what they had last year, which, of course, has been the knock on Jared Goff throughout the course of his career. So, a lot of splits, really in terms of what our people think for the NFC. The Lions weren't nearly as popular as a team like, say, the Eagles, or as a team like the 49ers. Even the Rams got a little bit of love as well. Not much love for the NFC South, understandably so. But look, I mean, I think, again, it's one of those things where, because the gap is so small between really the top 3 teams, you could argue the Bears are in that mix too. It's hard to go out there and kind of call your shot with this team, with a team in this division, not only navigating the division, but then navigating the playoffs as well. Whereas the path is probably a little bit easier for an Eagles or a 49ers, something like that.
It's interesting you brought up San Francisco. Adam Burke with us from VSiN. It does seem like the Niners are a chic pick, and then you get this Jennings news the other day. He's not happy about his contract. There's injuries there. tomorrow on the show, I'm going to bring up somebody from on Fox the other day said, oh, hey, Brock Purdy is better than Jared Goff, which I think is outrageous. But besides San Francisco, are you buying in on the Rams? And is there anybody else in the NFC outside of the normal Phillies and Detroits that you think could be a sleeper?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of teams that I think are pretty interesting. One of them is Arizona. Arizona's not getting a ton of talk here, but I think Jonathan Gannon is a really, really good head coach, a brilliant defensive mind. I don't know how far Kyler Murray can take them. I think it's a really fair question to ask. We know they've got talent at the skill positions. We know that they've got, at least a competent offensive line. I think this Arizona defense could be really, really good this year. I think they get more of a pass rush this season. They had a key injury early on with Robinson going out, one of their high draft picks going out early in the season, didn't really get a chance to, get into that rotation, get acclimated to the NFL. But that was an example of them drafting a player that they thought could help them with a pass rush. Now that he's back this season, I think they do get after the quarterback a little bit more here. And you can get after these quarterbacks in the NFC West. Matthew Stafford, kind of an Easter Island statue at this point. Brock Purdy is not the most mobile of guys either. And I think that when you look at Seattle, they're a team that's probably going to be, 7-10-ish type of thing. Arizona's a team that I like, and people probably won't like to hear this, but I think Dallas bounces back this season. I have big concerns about Washington's defense. Maybe you get a sophomore slump for Jaden Daniels. Maybe you don't, but I think teams will be better equipped to plan for Cliff Kingsbury's offense there with what Daniels wants to do and what they're able to do. And I think the Cowboys are a team that, there's a little bit of desperation now with this roster. There's some guys that want to get paid. There's, Jerry Jones is maybe more interested in being on Landman than he is, signing his guys. But I think Dallas does bounce back this season. I don't think they win the East, but I think that the Cowboys are a playoff team this year.
You mentioned the division earlier, just some numbers again, if you could give the audience, my audience, just a little bit of an update. Odds right now with the Lions and the other teams in the division. I mean, is it closer than we'd expect in terms of where some of the money's going on Green Bay?
Yes, like I said, Lions 10.5 is their win total. Packers 9.5. The Vikings and the Bears both at 8.5. So again, a lot of jockeying for position here, but the Lions are still the division favorite, plus 150. So you bet 100 to win 150. Packers are plus 250. Vikings plus 350. Bears plus 450. I mean, in terms of a team that's projected to finish in last place in its division, plus 450 is a very, very short number for Chicago. So you can see the respect that's being paid out there to all four teams in this division. But again, as things currently stand, and obviously we'll see how the preseason goes, who stays healthy, who doesn't. As things currently stand right now, the Lions are the favorite to win this division. And also they're 10-1 to win the Super Bowl. Green Bay is 20-1, Minnesota 30-1, Chicago 40-1. So again, the Lions from a power rating standpoint, still the top team in the minds of the odds makers. And we haven't seen the betting market really disagree to this point yet and force a shorter price on some of the other teams.
I know you were kind of bashing the Vikings before, and it's fun. I love this. But for a team that won 14 games last year, plus 350 for the division with that coaching staff, I know you might not like McCarthy, Adam, but I'm sure you got to give KOC and Flores some props. That's not a bad number.
No, it's not a bad number at all. I mean, look, I kind of said this about the Browns over the last couple of seasons, bring it back to the Cleveland thing. We're like, everything except for the most important position on the field is pretty good.
Right.
And the Browns, I mean, they had a really good defense that first year under Schwartz. They had good skill position talent, very good offensive line. They just didn't have the quarterback. And, fortunately, Flacco kind of saved them late in the season. Until I see that JJ McCarthy is that guy, to me, the Vikings are that team. From a on paper standpoint, if you take the quarterback out of the equation, Minnesota might be the best team in this division. I like Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, two guys that are looking to bounce back off of kind of lost seasons last year. We know the skill position guys are phenomenal, and we'll see what happens with Jordan Addison on how long he gets suspended if he does. But outside of the quarterback position, they might be the best team in this division. But it turns out the quarterback's pretty important in the NFL. And McCarthy, of course, coming off of a lost year, maybe it helps that he got to, sit behind Darnold and learn the playbook and, learn without having to learn on the fly. But he's got to show me that he's got the goods as an actual passer, because Michigan didn't really need to use him much in that role. But your point about Kevin O'Connell is very well taken. I mean, this guy's an exceptional head coach and a quarterback whisperer at that.
Want to ask Adam a little bit more about Dan Campbell. He mentioned that before. We'll talk some AFC as well and do some prop bets as well with Adam Burke from VSiN, Vegas Sports Information Network. We'll do that coming up next. Great to catch up with Adam Burke from VSiN. I check their stuff out all the time on SiriusXM. Tom Byrne is on there from time to time. I love Tom. Tom loves his gambling. Saturday nights with Tom Byrne on Mad Dog. Sometimes when he gets into the Notre Dame point spreads, it gets interesting. And of course, our buddy Patrick Maher, a Detroit Lions fan, at times a hater, but we love Patrick. All right. So you mentioned before about Dan Campbell, and just, you're right. The negative toward the Lions is, man, how they can replace Ben Johnson. But like you said earlier, and I want you to kind of explain more, Campbell might not be getting the kind of love. I know there's so many things. VSiN does it, and FanDuel with first coach to get fired and stuff. And for the first couple of years, Dan Campbell's name was on that list. Not anymore.
Yeah, no, not anymore at all. By the way, I love Patrick too. Patrick's a really, really good dude.
Yes, he is.
But, you know, as far as Campbell goes, I mean, a lot of people, because, you know, he wasn't that sexy of a hire, wasn't that flashy of a hire. And as you said, a lot of people thought that it simply wasn't going to work out. And it's worked out, but a lot of people have given the coordinators the credit, you know, Ben Johnson specifically. And I think that's a little bit unfair. You know, I mean, I think that when you talk about the role of a head coach, whether it's in the NFL or in college or, you know, even in other sports, Major League Baseball, I'm a big believer in this. The team takes on the identity of its manager. And I think that when you look at Campbell and you look at how fiery he is, the belief he has in his players, the way that, you know, he kind of talks with the media, some of the motivational things he says, even if they're kind of ridiculous and kind of crazy, like, teams want to go play for that guy, right? So I think that the Lions are going to be just fine without Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. I mean, again, they're simply promoting Kelvin Shepard, which, you know, I kind of like the fact that Shepard's only 37. I think he has a direct line to the players. He understands what they're going through. He's going to have a really, really good rapport with them. And John Morton, I mean, again, anytime you take a guy off of the John Gruden, Sean Payton coaching tree, you're probably going to be efficient in the red zone. You're going to have some very easy pitch and catch in terms of, you know, your pass play schemes. I think Campbell has a real legitimate shot here at winning coach of the year. Now, it would probably take the Lions going 13-4 at a minimum, because coach of the year is typically to a guy who turns around a really bad team. Like a lot of people in our VSiN NFL betting guide love Liam Cohen down there with the Jaguars to kind of turn them around at a much shorter price than what Campbell is. But I think if you get another year with a Campbell-led team that's won 27 games over the last 2 seasons in the regular season, like, I think the media is going to give that guy some props finally. And to do it without Johnson, where you have a story to tell now, I think Campbell's a pretty good gamble in that coach of the year market.
So the Lions have to go week 3 to Baltimore and play a Monday Night Football game against the Ravens. And then they got to go week 6, play Sunday night at Kansas City. What's the tougher game in your mind right now?
That's a really good question. I'm a little bit low on both of those teams, actually, Baltimore and Kansas City.
Really?
I think it's the game against Baltimore. You know, I mean, Kansas City is coming off of another deep playoff run. Mahomes was not good in the regular season last year. Travis Kelce's getting older, getting a step slower. The Chiefs, you know, their wide receivers are always involved in something off the field that kind of becomes problematic for them. Last year, the defense really carried them. And I think this is probably the year that we see Kansas City fall off. I actually like Denver to win the AFC West this year.
Wow.
I think Baltimore, I mean, it's just very tough to match up with them from a physical standpoint because of what they do running the football with Derrick Henry, with the way that Lamar Jackson can run it. They've got, you know, both tight ends who are productive. I think the game against Baltimore is a more difficult spot, even though, you know, a few weeks later in the season, you may deal with more weather at Arrowhead than you probably will there in week 3.
Any sleeper in the AFC that you want to throw out there, Adam?
I mean, I guess I don't think Denver is really a sleeper, but I do like them to win the AFC West at about 3-1. You know, Bo Nix was really good after the first 3 weeks of the season. That's probably the best defense in the NFL, especially getting Jahdae Barron in there now to kind of bolster that secondary a little bit. So I do like this Denver team quite a bit. I think a lot of people are trying to decide between Denver and the Los Angeles Chargers. For me, I think it's definitely Denver. I'm starting to come around on the belief that Jacksonville is going to make some noise in the AFC South. Obviously, I love CJ Stroud being an Ohio State guy, but you talk about injuries and you talk about the difficulty of, betting on guys to stay healthy year in and year out. His wide receivers are hurt all the time. Offensive line was not good last year. The defense is a little bit of a stars and scrubs unit. The South could be open a little bit there, in the AFC. And I think maybe Jacksonville is the team that could kind of push forward. I would love to say Indianapolis, but I don't believe in Anthony Richardson as far as I can throw him, and I'm not a very strong guy, and I can't throw him very far. So I don't really believe in the Colts right now.
Final thing, obviously last year we had Josh Allen win the MVP, but Saquon was up there. Do you see a scenario this year where Jahmyr Gibbs, Jared Goff was a top 5 MVP finalist last year. What about Gibbs in that mix this year?
I mean, it's tricky, right? How many touches, how many stats does he share with Montgomery? That's going to be something that we kind of have to figure out as the season goes along, because the thing about Barkley is nobody threatened him for touches, in the run game or really in the receiving game out of the backfield. So he was able to put up significant numbers because there was really nobody else to go to. Honestly, this is not a very thin limb to go out on. I think Josh Allen wins MVP. I think the Bills have the best record in the AFC. The schedule is set up really, really nicely for them. They're a team that's probably going to be the number 1 overall seed when all is said and done. I do think there's some value in Joe Burrow, though, in kind of the 650 range. Second year with offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher, led the league in a bunch of passing categories last year. The defense probably still won't be very good, so he's going to have to throw the football. And I think Cincinnati could win that division. So if Cincinnati could win the AFC North, Burrow's clearly going to be a big part of it. And that's more than double the price between Bengals to win the AFC North and Burrow to win MVP. So I think Burrow to win MVP is, a pretty good value grab, but I think it's Allen's award to lose because of how nicely things set up for the Bills this year.
Lions at Bengals, by the way, week 5. So maybe I should have changed my question from earlier. Adam, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming on. And hey, let's just hope for a Chase DeLauder call-up by the end of the week.
I'm hoping so. And by the way, I just want to mention, I know we talked all NFL here during this segment, but our college football betting guide over at vsin.com comes out Tuesday, August 5th. So happy to get the NFL one out, but then we just turn the page and roll right into college football. And then we get the preseason and then we get the regular season. So, very exciting times over at vsin.com. And I highly encourage everyone to head on over there and check out what we're doing.
Dude, the pro football betting guide's incredible. Sammy sent it to me today so I could prep for you, and it's great. So everybody, it's right there. Everybody can just download it there.
Yeah, over at vsin.com. It is exclusively for vsin Pro subscribers, but I will say this. We do have a football special that we're running. $175 gets you through the Super Bowl, which would include all of our betting guides for the winter sports as well, college basketball, NBA, NHL. But if you're not sure, if you're on the fence, we have a $9.99 introductory offer, which is for the first 30 days. So you get the NFL guide and you'll get the college football guide for $10. And as somebody who's bought some other guides here at this time of the year, 2 for $10 is clearly the best deal you're going to find. So you can try out that intro offer at vsin.com, see what we're all about. And then you don't have to commit, but if you want to, we'd love to have you.
Love it. Check out Adam's stuff at vsin.com. Appreciate you coming on, brother.
Absolutely, man. Have a good one.
You got it. There it is. Adam Burke with us from VSiN on a Tuesday Locked On Lions. We'll have the latest on Tate Ratledge tomorrow as Rookies Report on a Wednesday edition.